Hello everyone, 76 Patriot here, and today we have breaking news. Harris has officially named Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, as her VP pick for the upcoming election. Now, this is big. This is kind of a stunning turn of events, if you will. I personally had my money on Josh Shapiro, or even possibly Mark Kelly, but Tim Walz was kind of the dark horse candidate, kind of, if you will, like kind of three people down the line as far as likelihood, and he is officially the pick. And this is kind of interesting. I'm going to go and just kind of break some of this down, some of my analysis of why I think this happened. But firstly, this is very big, of course. He's obviously a white older man who's probably picked for that reason to kind of counterbalance the ticket, if you will. This is kind of interesting because will formally introduce him at a rally in Philly. I had assumed it would be Shapiro. That was an indication, in my opinion. But that's pretty interesting. Maybe Shapiro will play a role in her cabinet or something. I don't know, because he is still a rising star in the Democratic Party. But regardless, they're going to take a battleground state tour in the upcoming days. And this is absolutely huge because Tim Walz is somebody who is basically one of the most far-left governors in the entire nation. That is not an understatement. I'm sure there's other potential candidates for that slot, but he's definitely up there. And basically this is the guy, and we need to kind of let this be known loud and clear because they're going to try to kind of totally reshape this guy's track record and make him into some very kind, moderate man. This is the guy that stood idly by and literally didn't do a darn thing while the state of Minnesota and Minneapolis burned to the ground in 2020. And we can even see, this pro-Trump super PAC said, they'll get along just great. They're both far-left radicals that don't know how to govern. And I certainly can't disagree with that. Yeah, you see the unrest that engulfed Minneapolis in 2020. And he's an incompetent liberal. At best, at worst, you could say, even somewhat diabolical as far as he's purposely letting this stuff happen. But again, at best he's incompetent, which is somebody you don't want to have in the second highest position in the nation. And we can see this is a big victory for the far left radicals, progressive Democrats. Yeah, we can see. I believe he actually Walz had the endorsement of Bernie Sanders, if my memory serves me correct. And progressive Democrats celebrate selection of Tim Walz. And this is interesting because it really shows Shapiro was kind of their chance, the Dems' chance. Harris is probably I would say, the most left-wing candidate possibly ever in American politics, but certainly at least in decades and decades that we've had on the mainstream platform for one of the two parties. And it's crazy considering she had the opportunity to kind of reach out to some of those moderates that could be potentially alienated by her ideology by choosing somebody like, say, Shapiro. And I'll give the guy credit. He would be somebody who would kind of try to grab votes from across the aisle and put on this kind of moderate skin. But she didn't do that. She doubled down, which is kind of crazy, signaling that, hey, in fact, we are trying to shore up. We don't care about moderates. We're simply trying to shore up the far left base, which has been eroding due to the Israel-Palestine stuff particularly. And so that's basically what they're signaling here. A Harris-Walz ticket would be, basically kind of a boon for the far left wingnut radicals, but really showing that that's the core of their base that they're kind of focusing on. The problem is with that is you can't, as anybody in politics knows, you can't win with just solely your own base. You need to attract some people from across the aisle and people in the middle, and that's going to be really hard. So honestly, I've not been, obviously, I'm not some kind of a political analyst. I'm just an average Joe. But I can look at this and be like, I think this is a big electoral mistake that they made, personally, unless there's something I'm missing. It just doesn't seem like a good strategy. And yet Republicans seem to be pleased as well that Kamala Harris has chosen Tim Walz as her running mate. And I agree. Shapiro or even Mark Kelly could have been, you look at these people, Roy Cooper, Andy Beshear, some of these people could have been relatively, I wouldn't say formidable, but certainly should be taken seriously, whether it's on the debate stage with Vance or whether it's just in general. They're pretty decent Veep candidates. Tim Walz, on the other hand, I mean, he has a legitimately easy to expose, track record. And he's just crazy. He's basically a self-proclaimed socialist. I don't know if he's ever come out and said, I am a socialist, but he's basically completely in line with that. And I believe he has actually said something similar to that. But still, this is exactly, yep, the Veep doesn't matter a ton. And I agree. It's not like all of a sudden, oh, Minnesota is going to be safe down, blowout margin. No, not even necessarily. You might do a couple points better, Harris, in the state. But yeah, the Veep doesn't matter a ton, but I think this reflects very poorly on her decision making. And this is an advisor to Paul Ryan. Feels very 2019. Tell the internet what it wants to hear. And I totally agree with that. Again, these are far left radicals. It is absolutely crazy. And if you look, here is what we're going to see over the next 92 days. Pelosi praises Walz as Heartland of America Democrat. We're going to see, somebody who's incompetent and has done downright wrong things to his state, completely destroyed the state of Minnesota. Basically be kind of whitewashed, all that stuff, and basically it'll be turned into a new, average, moderate Dem who's fighting for the average American. He is totally going to be rebranded, just like they're trying to do with Harris. So I'm just warning y'all, I can see exactly what's going to happen. And yeah, Pelosi fiercely rejected any characterization of Walz as an out-of-touch progressives. To characterize Tim Walz as left is so unreal. He's right down the middle. He's a Heartland of America Democrat. So, as the saying goes, to be forewarned is to be forearmed. We're going to see a lot of this crap, for lack of a better term. I try not to use any bad language on this channel, but it really is. So, basically, and this guy is he's unknown. And that could be a good thing. That could be a bad thing. Only 13% of Americans knew enough about Walz to register an opinion of him. Again, that could be a good thing. I mean, for the Dems, if they can totally pretend he's somebody that he's not. It could also be a bad thing, because he is basically just some random generic white guy that doesn't add anything to the ticket. So that could go both ways. But basically, this is, and yeah, I'm just not going to go too long because I have a couple other articles I want to pull up. But this is big. This is breaking news. And this is a line that I really like. Walz has spent his governorship trying to reshape Minnesota in the image of a golden state. Exactly. He is trying to protect illegals and give them, licenses, and it's crazy. He's a dangerously liberal extremist, and I absolutely believe that. And now if we go, we can I pulled up a couple of these articles, probably not going to spend too long because I covered the majority of kind of this breaking news, but we can see, I think one of the strategies may be because, again, to shore up the left-wing vote, but also because they're trying to make a play for the Rust Belt, because the Sun Belt is still very Trump favorable. You look at Georgia, you talk about Nevada, you talk about Arizona. These are still, regardless of a slight, Kamala bump in the polls, whether that's even real or not, they're still very Trumpy states this election. The Rust Belt is where the battle's going to be fought, honestly, and probably won. So we can see right here, Dems will hope this mix of attributes, which I guess I actually didn't read this part of the article yet, but helps a Harris-Walz ticket shore up support in the one-time blue wall states of Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. Yes, this is what I'm saying, they've been seen as Biden's and now Harris's most viable path to victory. And this is big, because now it's kind of crazy. You have two Veep candidates. You have J.D. Vance, of course, and now Tim Walz. They'll basically be making a play for this geographic and economic region. And basically it's going to come down to, for those who know about these two guys, which is the kind of America I want to see, which is honestly going to appeal to the white working class voter. I don't think Tim Walz, who basically desires to see as a socialist, a version of the United States, And I think this is going to backfire personally. Again, politics is crazy, things change. Um, I just think this is kind of their first big error, if you will, the Harris campaign. Yeah, 71% of Americans didn't have an opinion, and that's interesting. I'm not going to, again, go too long into this. And it would be interesting to see a debate, a Vance Walz debate. Vance is gaining a lot of kind of articulate. He's being a lot more articulate lately, and even more charismatic, and speaking on the issues. And Walz is somebody, honestly, I've never really heard him speak. I don't imagine. I may have heard him like a couple minutes here or there in sound bites. He doesn't strike me like the kind of person that's a very like gifted, charming orator. Again, I could be wrong. I haven't listened to any long speeches from him. But still, it's going to be easy. This is basically a repeat of 2016, I feel like, at this time. And so, one more thing I should mention. Walz is not an electoral juggernaut. He was in the House for like 6 terms, I think, from 2006 to 2018. If you look at the 2022 results, he only won by like 8 points. This is Minnesota, and sure, it was, you could say, supposed to be a red wave year, but Republicans did universally awful across the Rust Belt, pretty much. You know, so the fact that he won Minnesota by a couple points less than Whitmer won Michigan is crazy. And again, I'm not saying we should derive too much analysis of the presidential race just from this. If we look back at 2018, he won it by slightly more, but still, just an interesting observation. It's just an interesting observation. It's not comparable to, say, Shapiro, who won a toss-up state by 14 points. He won Minnesota by a likely margin, and he lost his own district actually handily, I believe, which is funny. Just shows you how trends are going in the state. But regardless, this is big. This is huge. I don't think it will really matter in the end. I think, if anything, probably Trump's chances of winning even maybe ticked up a point because of this. But again, guys, thank you so much for watching, and make sure to subscribe to the channel to keep up with up-to-date updates and news like this as the race gets closer and closer. Again, thanks for watching, and have a great day.